In Los Angeles, there was an uprising. And what actually happened was there was onlookers who witnessed some police brutality. There was a young man who was 21 years old, and he was riding actually under the influence. And when the police approached him, he resisted arrest and it escalated. But it escalated to a point where he actually was hurt. He was hit in the face with a baton, but the onlookers intervened. They tried to intervene and it escalated. It escalated to a point where, and I'll show you a few pictures here, where they actually had to call in reinforcements from the military. So this is what it looked like in 1965 in Los Angeles. Now, this gentleman, Dr. Ron Mulana Karenga, he would happen to be doing his doctorate at the time. And he saw what was happening. And a year later, he was actually affiliated with Malcolm X's cousin. And they actually had their own organization called US Organization. And so he was a Pan-Africanist, and he saw what was happening, and he thought that there must be a way to bring his community together after seeing the damage that happened here. So he wanted a way to not only restore the community physically, but also restore the community, in terms of identity, in terms of well-being. And so this is the gentleman here, Dr. Ron Mulana Karenga. He was a professor of African studies, activist, author, and creative Kwanzaa. He is still living. He looked at Malcolm X, his principles and his teachings, and he felt that Kwanzaa might be a way for African Americans, Black people in general, to regain their identity, restore their self-worth, and not wait for others to validate them. A lot of his observations were in countries like Rwanda, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, who all speak Swahili. If you're a Pan-Africanist in those times, you saw Swahili as a way of uniting the entire continent of Africa. And just very recently, that conversation came up again with many leaders. So for those of us who are not familiar, Pan-Africanism promotes that all Black people are one nation, regardless of language, regardless of color, regardless of origin, your country of origin. If you're a Pan-Africanist, you believe that Black people are family globally. So this particular ceremony is a harvest celebration. So many different societies in Africa have this type of celebration. If you go to Ghana, they have a harvest celebration. Many different countries in Africa have this type of celebration where you give a portion of your crops and you sacrificially offer it to God, a higher power. You can also offer it to their king, like this nation does here. So there's dancing involved. There's a lot of regalia that is put on. And here you'll see here the king comes out to participate. So this is Swaziland that I'm focusing on today. And just because I really admire the fact that this is one of the last remaining kingdoms, and they renamed themselves Eswatini, no longer Swaziland. And this king, a lot of the principles actually come from this society, Ngoni. So these are the Nguzo Saba, Umoja, unity, Kujichagulia, self-determination, Ujjama, collective work and responsibility, Ujjama, cooperative economics, Nia, which is purpose, Kuumba, creativity, and Imani, which is faith. And each candle represents one of these principles. So how do we light the candle? Now, I decided to talk about two different ways because over the years, I've seen it done two different ways. I've seen people start with the middle candle, always the black candle, which represents the people, the earth, the richness of the earth. And they start with the middle candle and they go all the way to the far, which on your side, I hope it looks left. It's supposed to be left, right? And then you work your way inwards, right? Alternating back and forth. I've also seen it done this way. I've also seen it they light all of the red ones first, and then all of the green. So I thought this was interesting when I saw this done, because it's almost like you're talking about the past before you can get to the future. It reminds me of Sankofa. If you don't know where you've been, it's like you don't know where you're going, right? So it's interesting to see that there's different ways that it can be done. How do we set it up? So I just want to quickly go through that. So before you light your candles, you need an entire table, right? So you need, and these are the different parts. You need a mat. The woven mat is, representative of, for instance, the kente cloth. Kente cloth is woven. A lot of times, when I've seen in the US, when children are learning about makeka, I have someone here. So I noticed that they often use a kind of woven pattern with just construction paper and things like that to kind of look like kente, right? So it just represents the interconnectedness of us as a people. You need this cup, kikombe cha umoja, and that means unity as well. People pour libations with it. So that's something that you need on your table. The kinara is the candle holder. You have vibunzi, and so these are representative of the children in your household. It also means fertility. So even if you don't have children, you can still put some out, to represent fertility. The fruits of your labor, and the mushuma saba, the 7 candles. So each one represents a different principle, as I was saying. Oh, and I don't want to forget zawadi, gifts. Now, I don't know, we can talk about this a little bit later, but when I first started learning about Kwanzaa, I was told that you had to make your gifts. You weren't allowed to buy gifts, you had to make them with your hands. And I also learned that you were only supposed to buy books. Another thing that you might want to add, somewhere on your table, a small flag, or behind your table is the Bandera, the Pan-African flag. Green represents the land and the future and hope. Black represents the people. Red represents our struggles. So we really need to, keep that in mind and be cognizant of that and include that if you can. So once you have your table ready, you have your candles ready, when you start to light your candle, you always do a call and response. And so the call is habari gani, which means what's the news, what's going on, what's happening, right? And the response is whatever the principle is for the day. So if I say habari gani, you would say imoja back. So what does Umoja mean? Umoja means unity. It's to strive for and to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. So Umoja actually has an Adinkra symbol as well, which is actually from West Africa, from Ghana. And this is a really important principle. Like I said, the Umoja cup, is a very important part of the ceremony. And unity, we really can't get anywhere, advance, or, accomplish what we want without unity. So it's a very important principle to start with. And we're going to talk a little bit more about it a little bit later. So what does unity mean to you? You can put your hands up for this one, and we can have a little discussion, because this is also a part of the celebration. Is you discuss and you reflect on how unity can assist your family, your community, and your nation.
I think unity is absolutely essential. It's about, for me, it means cooperation. It means collaboration. It means networking. And anything we do, in order to be successful, especially if you're working with a group of individuals, there has to be a common goal, common vision, common purpose.
So for Umoja today, I would encourage you to do something together as a family. Work together as a family. Unify yourselves as a family and complete something, produce something. Kujichagulia. And that means to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. I thought that we could start our discussion today on why is self-determination important. In order to determine that, we need to find out how has our lack of self-determination affected us as individuals and as people. And being a woman of African descent, I automatically came to my self-expression in terms of my cultural attire, my hair, my clothing. I automatically went there because I feel like it's something that stifles me, and I feel like it's something that I second guess, and I really have to put myself out there to be able to just exist in that manner.
I think self-determination is absolutely essential, and it's a huge challenge, particularly if you don't get that that support at home. If you don't get that grounding, say, as a young child, with your parents and people around you encouraging you to be proud of who you are and your heritage and your culture. And when you don't have that foundation, when you go into the world, even going to school, for example, or with your peers, the pressure is so great that you want to conform, even though that you might feel that's not who you are, but you feel to fit in and to feel a sense of belonging, I need to dress a certain way and act a certain way. And sometimes that way of dressing and acting might be totally alienated from your roots and your culture, from who you are. So I think the challenge is, if the foundation is not there at the home front, it becomes extremely difficult to be self-determined and or to be strong in yourself and who you are when you go there in the world.
And in all of those phases, in your family, you have to be disciplined, economically disciplined, morally disciplined, all of those things. In your community, you got to sacrifice. You got to sacrifice time. You have to sacrifice short-term gain to build in all three of those areas.
Self-determination is, as I said before, is absolutely essential, because it's about speaking our own truth. It's about being the narrator of our own story. And in order for us to speak our truth and to speak our story, we have to know it and we have to understand it. In fact, we should be the master of our story, so we can convey what that story is based upon our own experiences. When we have other people tell us a story, oftentimes they write out the good part of the story, and they're not part of their history, they don't always tell it accurately.
Today is Ujjama, cooperative economics. To build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. I want us to think about collectively, having success in our communities on our own terms. What would that look like? What businesses would best serve our communities? is it possible if we thought about the things that we normally buy at mainstream stores and restaurants, and what would happen if we purchased those things at Black-owned businesses? And if we supported Black-owned businesses, would that generate generational wealth? What would happen if we continue to do that?
I think this principle of Kwanzaa, Ujjama, is absolutely essential. I love the clips that you show. I think it's good to have this kind of conversation and this discussion, and to learn from people that look like us who are doing well financially, and to hear their story and how they were able to be that successful. But I think financial literacy is absolutely important, how to make your money work for you, because going to school, speaking for myself, all I knew was to go to work and get pay and pay bills and, buy certain things that you need. But we never had a conversation or a discussion, I would say at home, talking about how to make the money work for you. All I know was to work for money, but how to make it work for you.
How long does it take before your money leaves your community? And I think that whenever we open our wallets, we need to think about that. We need to be conscious buyers. We need to be conscious spenders, and really think about, where is this money going? And is it a couple of hours? Is it a couple of seconds?
So the Ujjama principle is absolutely essential, because without finance, it's very hard to actually accomplish much, because if you don't have money, can't pay your rent, can't take care of your kids. So, we don't want to be just working just from paycheck to paycheck. We want to be able to learn how to build wealth so we can pass it on to our children.
And today we're talking about Nia. Now, Nia is purpose, and it means to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. What does Nia mean? What is the purpose? And so it's talking about collective vocation of building and developing and defending our community, its culture and history, in order to regain our history's initiative and greatness as a people, and to add to the good and the beauty in the world. So this is very, very detailed, but the main pieces, I wish I could have highlighted, but it was different. You can't really highlight it on here, but I just wanted to show you the website so that you could take a look and read it for yourselves. It's really, really well done. Okay. So I will stop sharing. And share again. Okay. So we went through that. Okay. So knowing a little bit about that information, when we're talking about Nia, we're talking about two different kinds of purposes. We're talking about our personal purpose, and we're talking about our community, what that purpose can be used for in our community, right? And so in order to do that, in order to contribute to your community, you have to know yourself. You have to know what your sole purpose is. But as many people go through life, sometimes they don't know what their purpose is, right? And so Nia shows us that our purpose is not just for us, it's for our whole community. It's to live your life to its fullest, so it's rewarding. It usually makes the world a better place and for others. And God gives it to you and you live it. It's something that you were born with.
When I think of purpose, I also think of vision. Having a clear vision, goal, and mission. High standard that you set for yourself, and in line that with what you're good at and what you're really passionate about. And I think once you have the clear vision and you align up with your passion, then you surround yourself with community or individual who share those ideas or who can also help to cultivate that idea and that passion that you have. Because sometimes you might be passionate about something, but the people that are the people that are with you or around you can also drain you if they don't share the vision, and they're, discourage you quite a bit. They might feel like, oh, they might say, what you're thinking about is crazy, that will never happen. You can never become an owner. You're just dreaming, it's all in your mind kind of thing. You want to be surrounded by individual and people that can actually reinforce and provide that extra energy and strength that you need to accomplish that. Once you identify what you're good at, what you love doing, then you just go to work and you get as much support as possible. You search for people or individual resources that are out there that can help you to achieve that particular purpose that you so desire to do.
And today we'll be discussing Kumba, which is creativity. To do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. The official Kwanzaa website talks about creativity and the fact that the symbol, and I'll just go back one, this symbol here, I try to circle it. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but it is a Egyptian hieroglyphic. It means the 7 principles of light from the Dogon tribe. Queen Hatshepsut, she, in her reign, she said, I have restored that which was in ruins. I have raised up that which was destroyed. When the Amu were in the midst of Kemet, overthrowing that which had been made as they ruled in ignorance of Ra, or God. So even at that time, it shows that restoration was very important, and rebuilding, which is, I think, very connective when it comes to what Dr. Karenga saw during that uprising. He wanted to restore that which was ruined. And here it talks about the fact that there's a legacy that we need to preserve and pass on to the next generation, which is why Kuumba is very important. So when we're talking about creativity, we're talking about innovation as well, right? Because I bring this up also because I think that when we think of creativity, we think of the arts, which is, something that we're very proud of as well. But I want us to kind of look beyond that as well. Look beyond the arts and see what else Kuumba means. Creativity is both restorative and innovative for our community. Creativity, which we often think of art, makes our lives more beautiful and more convenient. It brings wealth to our communities. It is healthy for us to take part in art and creativity and using our mind in that type of quote unquote, like out of the box kind of way.
Normally when we think of Kumba, we tend to think of it more like just singing and dancing. But I like that it was able to tie it in, to expand it to include the climate, because climate change is something that we don't talk about in our community. We don't have that conversation, as if it doesn't impact us, but it does. It has to do with water, the food that we eat, how we take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So all of that is a conversation that we need to have among ourselves. First, I would say our family and then our community. We need to be part of the discourse. And the other aspect of Kumba is, again, with the work of Konbit, just trying to connect and support young people as much as possible. And then we named one of our March break camp, the Kumba camp, because it was all about engaging young people creating a space where they can learn about who they are, their history, their heritage, their culture. It has three components. It's academic, it's cultural, and it's a space, a safe space where they can be who they are and be proud of themselves.
Today, we will be discussing that last principle. Faith, or imani, is to believe with all our hearts in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. This is the symbol, just to give you a little bit more detail about that. Imani has a symbol, and a lot of times these 7 principles, they either have an Adinkra symbol, which is from West Africa, or they tend to have a symbol like this, which is from Egypt, right? An Ankh is an ancient Egyptian double symbol of the Ankh, life, and Jed, pillar, stability, endurance. Serves here as a symbol of steadfastness and commitment to the good, the right, and the beautiful in life. This long-term vision, what do you see as our long-term vision as a people? Because it's one thing to have your personal goal, and that's very, very important, and your personal goal is attached to this long-term goal as a nation. But what do you see, how do you see us as a people in the next 10, 20 years? What's your vision?
Yeah, I think Imani, our faith, is something that is absolutely necessary. I mean, I can look at it from an individual, and I'm going to talk about it from a collective perspective. I think from an individual level, I think we have to kind of know who we are. Self-development is very, very important. We have to know our strength, our weakness, what we're good at. You know, it all ties into some of the other principles of the Kwanzaa that we talk about. But knowing what you're good at, what you're really a professional at, and then believe in yourself, believe in that you can make it, that you can deliver the presentation, or you can talk about that subject with authority, because you have studied and you have mastered it, and you are an expert in that area. So in order for you, though, to believe that, you have to have faith, and which to me is unwavering confidence in your ability to make that happen.
Can you see my candles? All right. So we say habari gani, and the black candle is umoja. Habari gani, and the far left red candle, kujichagalia. Habari gani, the far right green candle, Ujjama. Habari gani, Ujjama. Nia. Habari gani,